And by all accounts, Trump's management style really seems to be causing more confusion than it is building consensus. All of these things are legitimate causes for concern, especially if you care about passing a conservative agenda. And they raise the question of whether or not this level of chaos is sustainable. There's this constant personnel churn, the public feuding with his own advisors and cabinet members, the Hunger Games setup at the White House where people are just strategizing how to keep their jobs and survive. And then there's the fear that as the Mueller investigation heats up, working for this president feels less and less safe. Okay, let me bring in my panel for tonight. Senior writer at the Weekly Standard, John McCormick. Unfiltered contributor and host of the Part of the Problem podcast, Dave Smith. And Unfiltered senior producer, Andy Levy. So Trump had a pretty bad week, I think, by anyone's metric last week. Between the Kushner stuff, his feud with Jeff Sessions, the Hope Hicks testimony and resignation, this fight with the NRA. Is all that how we got to tariffs today? Is that what all of that begot, tariffs?
It's hard to follow a straight line in the last couple of weeks, but I do agree with you. I think it was a very bad week, but it's so crazy that the media spends so much time focusing on these silly jokes.
Yep.
And like, I actually have been really offended by jokes that presidents have made before. When Obama made that joke, he said, "Oh, my daughters are dating age now. I have 2 words, predator drone." You're like, wow, oh, because you really kill people with predator drone. You know, the media had no problem with that. This was obviously a joke, but I do think, yeah, the stuff about gun rights was very upsetting. And these trade wars are going to be a disaster. So that you'd like to see more focus on that.
Yeah, and it's not that nobody's talking about it. They are, but I think it's so easy to take the Trump bait. And the Trump bait is, I'm going to goad these people into following this catnip around, you know, for as long as they will. And plenty of people seem to take the bait.
The problem is, if the media keeps taking the bait like this, people are going to stop trusting the media.
Okay. But this is really, I mean, this is how Trump operates, you know. There's the, whatever the last person said to him is maybe his current view of the issue. There's, you know, he likes pitting people against one another, and he likes gathering a lot of people around to see them like vie for his attention and his affection. But how weird is it, I'll say weird, that this CNBC story is being emailed around today. I got it in my inbox from Speaker Ryan's comms shop. And the CNBC story on the tariff is how bad it would be for our economy. Is it weird that this is how Republicans in Congress are trying to get a Republican president to come to their side of the issue or see some sense in this?
I would say what's weird is not that they're emailing around stories about how protectionism is bad. These are people who are supposed to be for free trade. What's weird is that they aren't taking actual actions here. I mean, Mike Lee, senator from Utah, introduced a bill the day Trump was inaugurated saying that any executive action on trade has to be approved by Congress. Very simple, whether raise it, lower it, Congress should get the final say. There's been no movement on that bill. They could do this. Congress could act. I mean, it would take 2/3. You'd have to have Democrats and Republicans join together to override a presidential veto. But Congress has the power to actually constrain the president if they want to. They don't. Inaction is a choice. That's what they've chosen.
Yeah, instead, I mean, you know, they'll go on Fox News to get the president's attention, or, you know, they'll try to get press attention, or they'll go on Twitter to get the president's attention. I still think it's very odd that there are Republicans in Congress who should have the president's ear and be able to pick up the phone and say, let's talk this through, Mr. President. And instead, they want people like me to talk about it.
Look, I've been saying since day one of this show, I have been saying Trump is governing as if he were a third party or an independent president.
Right.
Like he is not a Republican in the sense of he's not a party guy. He doesn't follow.
Not beholden,
he's not beholden, and he doesn't follow the same paths that, you know, we're used to seeing. This is not a bad thing in theory.
No, I've always said it's his best asset.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's his biggest flaw.
Absolutely. Look, and it's also in large part why he got elected.
Yeah.
To not sit there and say, you know, we're going to do things the way we used to. This is what Republicans do. This is what Democrats do. Of course, the problem is, you know, when you take it away from the abstract and you start pushing things like 25% tariffs.
Or no due process.
Or no due process. That ain't
Maybe
so
the old
great.
way looks kind of good.
Yeah.
You know, I was reading Jamie Kirchick from the Brookings Institute recently tweeted out, everything Trump says makes sense when you just preface it with, Donald from Queens, you're on the air. I think that's interesting, right? Because in in the best and the worst ways, he really does, I think, remind a lot of people of the guy that calls into the sports talk show, radio show, because he really thinks, like, this idea is really good and many people must hear about it. But really, he ends up just sounding like a bit of an irrational, I don't know, crazy.
Yeah, no, it is. It's Jamie Kirchick's analogy is absolutely perfect. And it's also, look, this is literally what Trump did during the campaign. During the election season, he would call into TV shows and talk to them on the phone. He was literally Donald from Queens or Manhattan or whatever. And it is. It's like, if you listen to enough sports talk radio or whatever, it's people calling in explaining why the manager needs to be fired and how he's lost the team. And then it's the host going, actually, the team really loves him, and the team is 20 games better than they were last year. And the guy goes, yeah, but he still sucks, and he has to go. And it's like, all right, you can't argue with that.
Yeah, what can you do about Donnie from Queens, Dave?
Well, I mean, not much because he's the president now. But I think also this is a big part of the reason why Trump won, because he does sound like regular people. He connects to regular people, and he follows his instincts. And he has very good instincts when it comes to regulations, taxes, but he has very bad instincts when it comes to this stuff. But I think the truth is that a lot of people connect with this. This is like Bernie Sanders economics. It's a horrible idea. It's not going to work at all. But this is very popular, and it does. If your jobs have disappeared overseas, and it's very hard to make the argument to people, it's like, okay, well, the problem is that there's no new capital being invested, government's spending too much money, interest rates are too artificially low, like this is why your money is getting sucked out. If you can just say, we'll bring back those jobs, it appeals to people.
And so, a silver bullet.
But it will not work. It's a disastrous plan.